The world is saved. The living room's dark save for light being cast from the big TV screen and the imminent sunrise that's teasing the one starry sky with whispers of morning.
Hey, George.
Hey, Lions. How's it going?
I'm trying to, as we start our discussion, remember a time in my life when I didn't hear the Tetris music in the background all the time.
Right? Yeah. No, it is like, I imagine that because it's enjoyable music, right? We'll get into that music. But like, I imagine like my own personal house, like, so you like Tetris music, eh? Have all of the Tetris music in the world. You know, like it's infectious. It is, you know what it is? It is enthralling because I am both enchanted and enslaved by it.
So have you ever seen the movie Children of Men?
Nope.
Okay.
But I'm interested for the Tetris tie-in.
No, I promise I can make this work. So there's a scene where a bomb goes off and then the hero is complaining that like he hears a ringing in his ear. And then later there's another character who's like, oh, you should help us. And he's like, no, I'm not going to help you. And then as he's leaving, she like yells after him, oh, you know that ringing in your ear? That's the noise that your brain interprets when those like hair follicles have died, and you will never be able to hear those exact frequencies again. And she's like, it's like their swan song. And she's trying to like use this to convince him to come and like help their organization. That like ringing, that tin ear from someone who's like been near an explosion, like that is the Tetris music for me. Like I can hear other things just fine. It's just softly in the background. It's just and it's kind of pleasant because most of the time the world is not totally silent. But then when you are left completely alone with your thoughts, you're not really alone. It's
well. And also, too, like, I listen to a fair amount of, like, I listen to on Zelda Orchestral Orchestra on Pandora, and which I recommend, especially when you, like, you know, thumbs up enough songs that it starts playing, like, techno anime music, too, because somehow it got there.
It's like, I don't know what else you want, man.
Yeah, man, like, I don't know how you thought these two things were the same, but I like it. But you know, like, one of the songs that does is, of course, it brings up Tetris, but there's one where it kind of, like, it's like a metal Tetris version. So I have like they start like do 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 do, and it's like, I'm like, yeah, metal. But
yeah.
Anyways, have you ever played this game before? I don't know.
Well, so this is actually something that will be woven throughout my conversation with you about the game, which is we played the Nintendo Entertainment System 1987 version of Tetris. And unlike most games we've played, there's like infinity billion versions of this game. And I couldn't stop myself from thinking exactly what you're not supposed to do. Like while you're watching a movie, while you are eating a meal, while you are talking to a partner, you shouldn't be thinking about other things in that category because it kind of harshes your enjoyment. So I'm playing this and I kept thinking like, oh, I wonder, did they do this the same in this other version of Tetris? Ooh, I know this is different in this other version of Tetris. And that was like, I don't think that's ever happened before where there are so many incarnations of a game that they just become this cloud of like vaguely defined Tetris characteristics. Like it is its own category. Like there's puzzle games and then there's Tetris games.
They are the infinite Rick.
Yes.
You know? Like, yeah, no, because that's the thing is because we were actually looking for a shorter game to play because of our recording schedule. And one of the ones that I was like, oh, we should play Tetris. I'm like, Tetris. We should play Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. And I'm like, but that is a Tetris game. Like I would lob it in as a Tetris game, but it is different enough that like, I was like, no, we wouldn't really have time to do that game justice. So I guess we could go OG Tetris, but yeah, no, it is. So, like, for me, I specifically remember playing this iteration of it a lot. Like, I played the Game Boy one a lot, and I've played all iterations a lot because it's like the glitter of video games where it's just kind of it's like everywhere. Like you don't have to go far to find a Tetris incarnation, right? But this specific one I remember because my friend Justin, he had a Nintendo. This is the same guy I played Mega Man with, and I remember this is seared into my mind because like he and I would like play and we get up to like level 5 or like level 6, and I think like one time we got to level 7, and then his father came in, set it straight to level 9, and owned us, or however you say that. Like, I remember being completely floored that any human being could possibly process information at that speed. And from that moment on, NES Tetris was seared into my mind. And I know that if I went and sought this person out, it would be like the story of the samurai who saw the samurai move, the other samurai move impossibly fast, and then trained his whole life to get better, and then fought him, and he was like slow. Like, I'm sure that that's what would happen, but no, in my mind, this man was a machine.
Well, okay, so OG NES Tetris, which I think technically the Game Boy one was the Game Boy one first.
Nope,
no,
came out on the computer first.
Oh snap!
You know how I know that?
Yeah,
no, because I got into it with. No,
I was terrified you were going to say you did research.
Well, I did out of spite. Does that count?
No, settling a bet is not rigorous enough to be considered research.
Yeah, no. So I was talking to Megan about it, and she said that she was like, "Oh, this is a." She's like, "Oh yeah, you're playing Tetris." I'm like, "Yeah, for the NES." And she's like, "Oh, did it come out for console?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's pretty much been everywhere." And she was like, "Oh, really?" Because it's to me it's a computer game. I'm like, "Nah, it's a console game." And she was like, "No, it's a computer game. I played it on the computer." And I was like, "Okay, here we go." So I looked it up, and originally it came out for like this system that I had never even heard of before. The next one was like a Coleco or something like that, right? But the system I never even heard of before, because then when I scrolled to the right, it was a Russian manufacturer. Because of course it was.
Of course, yes.
Because this was made right. So of course it wasn't on the Game Boy first. It's a Russian game. It was probably made for a Russian console or a Russian computer. So
yeah, no, that's definitely, and this is like the most famous and possibly only game to ever come out of Russia. So it definitely, you're kind of like, yeah, obviously, duh. It's like, oh, what's the end goal of Oregon Trail? And it's like, I can't remember. Let me look it up. Click, 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 click. Oh, right. You're trying to get to, it's right there in the name, right?
Yeah.
And like on the NES box art, it actually says something like, like the James Bond movie From Russia with Love. On the original NES box, it says From Russia with Fun.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's the caliber we're dealing with here. But I do want to say, just quickly, my nostalgia goggles for this game are bifurcated because I played the NES one a lot, but my primary like lifetime Tetris exposure, TI-83 calculator. Right?
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
I mean, maybe if I'd had a Game Boy, then lifetime exposure would have been on the Game Boy, but because all of my Game Boy exposure came from borrowed Game Boys and I had a TI-83, played a lot of Tetris on that calculator.
Well, I'm sure that you had what all kids had, which was a TI-83 and a whole lot of extra time in school whilst not paying attention.
No, what I had was a lot of time in the evenings after all of my homework and chores were finished. Dude, I don't know if my parents listen to this.
Ooh. No, that's fine. I'm just surprised that you would lie to your parents on the air.
No, Mom, Dad, I love you. And also,
this was
only
after
ever
doing
paid attention in school.
This is after doing shots of chocolate milk and going to bed at a reasonable hour.
That's exactly right. Yes, wholesome evenings with my calculator. So we should probably start ripping this thing apart. So we got to talk about the visuals, and this is like a lot of puzzle games. It's a single screen game, right? It's single screen in the way people think of Atari game, or not Atari games, arcade games, but it's single screen really more because it's a puzzle game. It's not like they were hurting for processing power. This game is, you could probably write it in 25 lines of JavaScript, but it's
probably running on a TI-83 calculator.
Right? And those things were awesome with chocolate milk. So this is an intentional design choice, not a design choice enforced by limited power on the hardware.
Yes. It is.
It looks fine, right? It's a puzzle game.
Yeah, it's a puzzle game. Well, to be fair, though, one of the things that they did do is they did not. So it's like one of those things where it's like, I guess it's kind of like pizza, where it's kind of hard to screw it up, and it's all kind of like generic. But if you do screw it up, it is almost intentional, and it is abysmal. So with that being said, is that there is no cluttering of the UI, right? So like there's like, here's the place where you play it. Here's what's coming up next. Here are some statistics that way we're not cheating you, for the love of God, Timmy. You got the appropriate number of long bricks. Shut up about it.
Right. I kind of wondered when I first sat down, I was like, why would I want to know this? Oh, because this is something I might want to know, right? Like it doesn't impact the game at all. It's not like you could shoot your eye. Well, maybe at this time in history, but it's not like you're likely to shoot your eyes over there and be like, okay, I have a 1 in 6 chance that I'm going to get a line piece in the next 4 pieces because whatever. Like, I don't think that was going on, but I mean, what else? This one didn't have a 2-player mode. They had to put something over there.
Yeah, they had to put something over there, and again, I did find at first I was kind of in the same boat where I was like, what do I need that information for? But then after I lost for the first time, and I was just kind of like, I swear to God, all I needed was this one piece. If I just gotten that one piece, that would have been it, man. The game cheated me. The game actually gave me a statistically unlikely number of those pieces. I felt that I was starved, but in fact, I thought that I was dying of thirst, but in fact, I was a man drowning. Like, so,
Well, there's line pieces just laying all over. The battlefield is cluttered with line pieces.
Which I think is another like great, little like kind of philosophical. Okay, so we have to wax philosophical a little bit, because our last Tetris game was Mario and Dr. Mario, and that's the one that we're writing our book on. So
well, that's our project management book. Who knows what kind of self-help business book will come out of this?
Let's find out. So I think that the statistical table is a great metaphor for life, because you see, it's not about what life gives you. It's about the order that it's given in and how well you can handle it. Right. Because that's the thing, is I was like, I needed this one piece, and I had gotten lots of those pieces, but I did not get it when I needed it,
Yeah. That's I can't decide if that's like a super pessimistic way to look at life. Like, things happen and you are powerless to deal with them because they just come at you in the order they come at you, or you have no control over the order things happen. So all you have in life is how you deal with them.
So actually, now I'm thinking about it, because I do like to think of myself as a positive person. So, and somebody with like an internal locus of control. So let's drill one step deeper, because here's the thing, is that it wasn't, there's like, oh man, if I only had that piece, then that's what I would have needed. Right. It's more so like, if you rely on on only getting a singular piece to solve the puzzle, then you will fail. Right. So if you're saying like, oh man, this is the one piece I need, then you can look back on life and be like, I was given tons of these pieces. And the problem was I was focused on this being the solution to the problem when I should have been open to new solutions.
So this is, I'm wondering if we're starting to go toward like a Taoist judo, like, kind of water has to take on the shape of its vessel. Like you can't control when these things are coming in. So it is the way you exert control over the world is how you deal with them, right? It's I'm trying to solve problems not by waiting for the world to present the correct solution, but by making a solution out of what the world presents.
Make some lemonade out of it. Yep.
Call life's manager. That is the best. I've seen a lot of like make some lemonade out of it alternatives, but the one from Portal 2, that is the best one ever. And it does not hurt that it is voiced by J. Jonah Jameson.
I know, right? And he will always be J. Jonah Jameson.
That's right. So we were talking about visuals. I do want to actually mention, because this occurred to me as another thing that I think was an intentional design choice and not the way we have sometimes crapped on palette swapping, and the fact that the graphics are super blocky. Like, yeah, it would be really annoying if they made everything like kind of rounded, because you want the whole point is to get these satisfying, compact, complete rows with no spaces in them. And even though the resolution of, early video games was still such that you would be able to tell the difference between an actual space and like the rounded corners on a block, I think having everything have perfectly hard edges so that it fits really snugly together actually does make it a little bit more like tactilely satisfying. Like when you slot in that line piece and you get the Tetris, like it looks visually really nice because there is no space, there's no gaps, there's no rounded edges. It's just perfect, edge to edge. Like, it's good. It feels good.
It feels good. It feels real good. Yeah, no, I think I agree completely. And in fact, I think that I don't know what part of the human brain deals with this. So biologists at us, but is there is something incredibly satisfying about like locking everything into place, like everything being in its proper place. And this is like a steady cocaine drip of that.
There's an entire subreddit called Things Fitting Into Other Things. And it's just things.
There's no way that stayed clean for any length of time.
No. Because you don't need to go into the realm of pornography because this thing in its like pure sense is as satisfying as that could ever be. So it's like, those like desk organizers, like where you put like scissors and pens and paper clips and stuff. So like somebody figured out that like an old fashioned film canister perfectly fits into one of those little compartments so well that like when you put it in, like you cannot get it back out without like tweezers. And it just, because like it slowly falls down because like the air is barely being able to be forced out. Like it's just gifts of that for miles and miles, like things just so nicely, things that are not designed to fit snugly together, just fitting snugly. See, you don't have to make this vulgar because it's so good. It feels so good.
Yes, it does. And I think that, like I said, like this game is basically that distilled, where it's just kind of like, you want that feeling for as long as you're playing this game, here is that feeling. That being said, though, I do think that the game, they did, in my opinion, a good job. Like you said, with like, there is palette swapping, not only with like so there's two palette swaps. One is with like the pieces that are the inverse of themselves, the mirror image of themselves. Those are always different colors, which is super helpful because that way you're not sitting there like rotating a piece 3 or 4 times before you're like, oh crap, it was the wrong way. And then it's already slotted into place. Also though, they swap the palette when you go up a level.
Yes. So it actually signifies progress.
Right. Which is, like I said, like if I was playing this game, it just kept going a little bit faster, I'd be like, yeah, okay. But then like when all the colors were switched, I'd be like, ooh, I'm on the orange level now. Like, oh no, I'm on the purple level now. And I don't know. It's like, I think that the tagline for this game could be oddly satisfying,
I think it could, because everything about it, I mean, I know we're still just talking about the visuals, but everything about it is just like direct. I mean, thank God this technology was invented 30 years ago and it's not something like Facebook came up with, because Facebook would use this as a way to like make you give up all of your deepest, darkest secrets and like sign over your life and your credit card numbers and your insurance and everything. Cause it's just like, it's satisfying on a variety of fronts. And the visuals, as far as like, I want to make sure I address this, because this is something I did not stress test, but I think later incarnations of the game may have done this explicitly as opposed to coincidentally. I think in some of the color schemes, the opposite pieces are not just different colors, they are not complementary, but like they're distinctly different. So like an L block would be like red and a reverse L block would be like green, for example. And I know NES Tetris does not do that. But I think the colors are different enough that you have that color information as a way to immediately identify a piece, as opposed to spinning it around and seeing all the different directions it'll point, right? So this is something that like it serves gameplay really well, even at this time when I'm not convinced that they were doing it explicitly. And then later I know they did use that information as a way to be like, no, that the colors are a way you can more quickly identify a piece and then take action.
Yeah, the only other note really that I had for visuals was that I just thought was kind of like a cool, like, huh, neat. Which could also be another tagline for this game is huh, neat. Is the fact that it not only does it give you is it gives you a special like little like white flash when you get a Tetris, you
Yeah,
know?
it does.
And you know, I kind of like that because I was like, ooh, a 2-line, ooh, a 3-line, a 4-line, you know?
Yeah, and this is a good segue into audio because that also gets a special little sound effect where
Yep.
you got a Tetris, right? So presumably, as you get better and better at Tetris, you are using the audio cues to save you from having to look at things, and you are using some of the visual cues to save you from having to process the audio cues, right? Like you're juggling whichever piece of information will allow you to move on to dealing with the next block because it's coming most quickly. And hearing the little, special like doo-doo-doo-doo when you get a Tetris and seeing the quick flash on the screen lets you know, like, okay, I did what I thought I was going to do. Or alternatively, if you hear that little chime and your eyes have already shot back up to the top of the screen, it might be like, oh, like, oh, I thought it was only 3. I miscounted, right?
Right. No, I did little affordance, to be like, you did the best you could do. So do we need to touch again on like how insanely catchy the music is? Like, do we have to?
Okay, so I do want to ask you this because I think we had a similar discussion when we talked about Dr. Mario, and I presume that this kind of thing would come up when we talk about any puzzle game, but right, like there's only music one. Like, what kind of person switches to the other songs, right? Like there's only music one. Thou shalt have no other musics.
Yes. In this one, I believe that there were some other like later Tetris songs that I do also like. But yeah, of course, now all I've got is Dr. Mario's in my head.
It is infectious.
Thanks for that. But no, so yeah, no, there is definitely like there is the Tetris song. Do there it is. It's back.
Yeah.
Thank God. I don't know why I'm happy about that. That's also. Oh yay! I switched herpes with the clap. So no, this is true. No, but like so again though, and I don't know how they did it. I'm increasingly starting to think like conspiracy theory thoughts, which is like, how did they make it so catchy though? Like because they made like they're like, okay, that's cool. We're just gonna make these visuals like super satisfying, and it's cool. That's cool. We're just gonna make the music super satisfying, and it's like how did you do this?
I mean, I'm based on what little I know about this game's Genesis and its
no, dude, it's on the NES, not the Genesis.
Based on what little I know about this game's origins,
it has nothing to do with Wolverine Origins, dude. This was on the NES.
Nothing has anything to do with Wolverine Origins. The movie was terrible. Nobody likes Millhouse.
No, sorry, real fast. You gotta take that back, man. That movie was amazing.
Wolverine Origins.
Oh. No, my bad. That's my bad. Sorry. My brain has so hard wiped that movie from my mind. I just immediately thought Logan. And like, I was like, no, screw you, man. Logan was amazing. You're like Wolverine Origins. I'm like, ooh, I am absolutely thinking of the wrong movie. You are correct. I apologize.
I don't know. He seems really sure it was terrible. I might be thinking of the wrong thing.
No. I mean, our viewers can't see it, but I'm wearing a 10-gallon cap right now, and I tip it to you.
That's right. So yeah, based on what I know about its humble beginnings, it was it was something the developer, because I think it was one developer, right? So the original developer like made it and then kind of like threw it out into the world, and that's why he's not a billionaire, because copyright law is an asshole. So I don't think he was an established game designer. I don't think he was an established any of the things you would expect, right? It's not like he had a PhD in human factors and psychology and he knew exactly how to reach into your brain and basically touch the pleasure center directly and enslave you to his software. Like I think this is an honest to God hit, right? Like this is what he wanted to make, and it turns out the rest of the world is super glad he made it. It's not something where he was like, oh, I'm going to do all this market research so that I can sell this and become a billionaire. He made this, he thought it was really great, and then every single person on earth agreed with him.
Yeah, and that is almost certainly what happened. Like, but in my mind, I'm just kind of like, when you're like, oh yeah, it's not like he's, some game designer. I'm like, I'd buy that. Not a game designer. It's like he's not like some psychologist. I'm like, I could see him being a psychologist. What I could really see him being is like some like deep government agent, who's like not a paltry psychologist, but somebody who has like literally studied humanity from like the shadows for like aeons, and then like all of a sudden just it's like, and here's the game. But like
so he's like a Doctor Who villain.
Yeah, but he was killed before putting in the last line of code that like actually enslaved humanity. So it just makes a really great game.
That's about as well as an evil plot can be foiled, right?
Yeah, no, because that's when the Doctor showed up.
Yeah. No, yes, I don't know anything about this guy, and I hope we're not crapping all over the memory of a good person, but I'm totally fine with the headcanon that the guy who wrote the music that we are both still humming in the back of our minds, he was a Doctor Who style super alien, and the Doctor gave us Tetris as a way of foiling his evil plot.
Yes, done.
Yeah, no, good. I know I have complained about this on other Nintendo era games, but because we're talking about how absolutely amazing the music is, I feel like it's necessary to bring up that this game does suffer from one of the limitations of Nintendo hardware, which is when like the Tetris music or the little Tetris sound effect happens, or when a line happens or something, it does drop instruments out of the melody, because those frequencies are being used and the sound effect takes precedence over the background music, which is basically always the case in video games. But it's because the music is so catchy, and because whether you like it or not, you are humming along while you're playing the game, your brain kind of focuses on that, like, there was an instrument missing there, or like, that chord wasn't quite right, or like, the melody dropped away for just a second. And it just, I know, like, I understand it's a limitation of the hardware. I understand basically every game from the NES era was bound by this and dealt with it, but it's just, the music is so clear in your mind, just like Super Mario music or Mega Man music or Legend of Zelda music. That song, how that melody should go, is so crystal clear deep in your lizard brain, so that when you are actually playing the game and you're actually focusing on the music because you have to write notes about it for your podcast, you're constantly like, oh, it dropped out. Oh, it dropped out. Oh, it dropped out. Which in a way is like, I got another line. I got another line. I got another line. But it's not, because you want the music.
I just want you to, first of all, acknowledge how reserved I'm being with not bringing up like 50 cocaine references and just bringing it up now for the second time. Because it's like, oh man, I liked getting 3 lines, but I loved getting 4 lines. Oh man, it was really fun when I got like 2 or 3 lines. And it's like every time my brain's like, shh, dude, don't just.
That PG-13 rating is important to us, for one, and for another, really, I am a Doctor Who villain who is testing your resolve by making you play a game that is incredibly satisfying and uses the word lines over and over and over. This is what it's all been leading to, like our 15 years of friendship, it's all been a clip. Yeah, this is it, man. That's a long con, dude. That's how I roll. I mean, if I'm in this hypothetical, is
that how you rolled a $10 bill to do your lines?
See, there you go. In this hypothetical here, I am thousands of years old. So, I mean, 15 years to screw with one human. Yeah.
Yeah, that's nothing. So one of the notes I had for music was that I really liked is, and not because I felt it really, it could signal something a little bit, but is that the music speeds up as you get more and more screwed.
Yes. And it's a distinct, there is a threshold. It doesn't accelerate above a certain amount of screwed, it's suddenly faster, and below that amount of screwed, it is the normal speed.
Right. And I like that. And it's not because I felt like, oh, well, that's nice because it's like an audio affordance. I felt that its purpose was to like make you more tense and make you more likely to screw up, because
it does feel that way. It's like they're like, you're about to lose.
Yeah, well, because to me, it's like do 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 do, and you're like you're just kind of freaking out. So it kind of and to me, it makes it more intense and makes it feel more like you are like teetering on the edge of success or failure, because it's just that the stakes are even higher. It's very similar to like when you are almost out of time on a Mario level,
But I feel like so almost out of time on a Mario level, and the one that actually jumped on my mind was in Mario Kart, when you start the third lap, the music goes at like time and a half or double speed, right? So it's like, oh, okay. But in a Mario level or in Mario Kart, you still have time to like claw back victory if you are behind, or to, feel the tension of maintaining victory if you are ahead. This to me is almost a little bit more like the death by drowning music in Sonic, because they're letting you know failure is really close. Like death is proximate. Yeah, it's like this is happening. And so
like you don't live on the same street as Death. You are Death's next door neighbor, and he is knocking on your door asking to borrow sugar.
No, you are Death's roommate, and you forgot that you only have one bed. Like he's right there. And so I don't feel like you get as much time to say like, oh, I got to knuckle down and stop being terrible at Tetris. But what it does do is when you cross that threshold, because it's really close to the top, it's like 4 lines away from the top. When you do, you know what it probably is? It's probably 1 Tetris away from the top. But when you cross that threshold and the music speeds up, and then you do go down a couple lines, and now the music has slowed back down, it feels really triumphant. So
super triumphant,
right? So you're trading some of the warning signs that things are about to go awry, but then when you emerge victorious, or you more likely you continue to limp along a little while longer, then you're like, oh yeah, that felt really good. Like there was a warning light, but I totally stuffed it down. Here's the thing. So I think you are probably better at Tetris than I am, because you tend to be better at puzzle games than me. But I'm not bad. I just think of the two of us, you're probably a little bit better. The amount of times I hovered right in that one line. So it was like speed up, slow down, speed up, slow down, speed up, slow down, speed up, slow down, speed up, speed up, speed up, dead. Right. So like the amount of times that instance happened made that mechanic a little bit more frustrating, because then I was distracted, because the song doesn't just speed up from where it is or slow down from where it is. It actually starts over.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does do that. I'm not sure that I would buy into the fact that I'm certainly better at Tetris. There is one puzzle game that I'm way better at you at, and that's chess, and that's hilarious. But but aside from that, I'd say that we are about on par with puzzle games, and yet the weird thing is that I think though that this main difference is just kind of like in the way that we like approach it, because like I've been told many times that like if I'm dealing with something that is meant for my entertainment, and the minute it ceases being entertaining, I am done with it forever. Like I will just throw that away, you know?
Like a game of Tetris, you don't gradually become disenfranchised. Like you're fine, burn it all down.
Yeah, pretty much. So when I got to the point where like the music sped up, I'm like, oh, cool. The music sped up. That's pretty neat. And whatever. And then like with just like, nah, I can do better, And of course that attitude was assisted by the level select, which if you're ready, that'd be a great segue, dude. Like
it's so tempting to needlessly take this away from you, but I'm gonna let you have it.
The last thing about the sound was that I liked it. No, so the level select. I liked the unambiguous level select because and the interesting thing about this is because this game is very bare bones as far as its mechanics go. Like there's a bunch of things that they do, but basically the mechanics is like make lines, do it, you know? So because of that, like the level select, like as the levels become more difficult, the ability to do that, the only thing that changes is the speed. So it's less of like you're not playing this for the plot, and you're not playing it for the like stunning like world building or anything like that. So level select it's really just a difficulty setting.
Yeah, because you still it's not level select in the platformer sense, right? It's level select
Right.
You're essentially choosing it's more like choosing the CC in Mario Kart. So I'm glad I got to compare Tetris to Mario Kart twice. Because you still start from scratch. You still have a blank screen unless you play mode B, which is for morons. I don't know why anyone would do that. So you still start with a 0 score. All you've done is started with the speed ratcheted up to whatever you want it to be ratcheted up to.
Right. So I thought that was interesting because I was like, oh, right, cool, level select. I forgot that this had that. And then I was like, it's really closer to a difficulty setting, which is interesting because, it's very like there's a high level of gradation in this, like there's 9 levels. So you're like, oh, yeah, 9 levels. You can pick your level. It's like,
but there are 10 speed settings because it starts at 0.
Well, there's two things I hate about that is there's 2 things I hate with any programming thing is syntax and off by 1 errors. Because I actually did it right.
Yes, you did.
Anyways,
no, I get it. It was an unjoke. Go on.
Oh, what? Oh God, we're still here. We're doing a podcast apparently. No, so I thought that was very like I said, because we've gotten into it a number of times with level select screens, or level selecting. And I don't think that we're fundamentally opposed on it, but I do think that I tend to believe that like you're kind of ambivalent, and I'm like, no, I want to be able to pick what level I play, like I want to do that. So to me, having ubiquitous control over that was like nice and refreshing.
And like my strong feelings on New Game Plus being in any story driven game or like linear experience game, in a puzzle game, it seems really dumb to not include a user selectable difficulty, because why would you not?
Yeah. Well, because so this is where it links back to cycle time, right? It's because that's the thing is that if you are challenged by level 8, right? Imagine how frustrating it would be to be every time you booted this thing up, you'd have to spend like 30 minutes to get to the point where you're challenged, and then you're challenged for like a minute, and then you die, and now you got to spend another 30 minutes to get back. That would be intolerable. But so the only way to generate an even close to reasonable cycle time is to actually give them control over the difficulty,
Yeah.
And I do also like the fact that it is right out of the gate. It's not like code-based or unlockable. It's like, nope, you want to play on level 9 from the get-go, go for it.
Yeah, the way you start playing Tetris almost assumes you have already played Tetris, because the defaults are type A, right? Or game type A, or whatever the hell they call it. 0 level speed, right? The starting speed. And then music 1, which is the only music anyone should ever listen to. So if you have never touched Tetris before, you would sit down and you would just keep pressing start until Tetris started happening to you, right? And you would get the expected default experience, right? Smart defaults. But if you have played a lot of Tetris and you want to play a certain way, or you want to practice a certain speed or something, or you want to turn the music off because you're playing like under the covers and you don't want your parents to know you're awake, then you would go in and change those settings. And the fact that it just throws those settings right at you as basically the start screen every time kind of does an amazing job of serving both of those audiences. Like, played a million times before, here are the settings you need to configure. Never played before, just keep pressing start until the game begins, right? So it's a really, because the game is so simple, but they've included only the things it makes sense to include, they were kind of able to serve both of those masters, which I think is a pretty tricky thing. Like, a more complicated game would have a much harder time. I should say a more mechanically complicated game would have a much harder time being like, oh, we have all the smart defaults, but also there's like 80 settings you can configure if you need to, but nobody's going to do that because it's way too taxing. And right, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. The fact that, you can basically like hammer start and just get through it, or, if you actually know what you're doing. I think that it is safe to say, though, that Tetris does assume that you've played it before, because, again, it was made by 1,000-year-old like time traveler, right? That was only stopped by the doctor right before he enslaved humanity. So he may very well make the mistake of like, yes, well, it's Jeremy Bearimy, right? Like they've obviously played the game before because it all loops back.
No
on
one
itself.
has ever not played Tetris. Have you ever heard there's people who are like, oh, I don't like to talk about the things I like. And the counter argument to that is, every day someone is born who's never seen the Flintstones, Star Wars, Ghost, right? It's like every day someone's born who has already played Tetris.
Yes, agreed.
So I mentioned this at the beginning. I thought a lot about other Tetrises while Tetrising this Tetris. And one of the places that
dude, that's
just roll with it. One of the places that manifested most like acutely to me was in the time to nudge a piece after it has touched down. Because the amount of time you have in NES Tetris, it tain't long. It tain't long at all. Later Tetrises give you maybe even just a fraction more time, but you feel that added fraction. Like this feels like so little time that there were several times where I caught myself yelling at the game, like, come on, that's not what I meant to do. And you can practically hear the game going, I know.
Me. Yeah, no, it is dramatically shorter. And to me, I think it's an odd testament to like both how so one of the things I've said a number of times is that it fascinates me to the degree to which we are clutching our brains to do stuff it wasn't meant to do. Like this is not at all what evolution had planned for this little computer processor, and we're like, okay, no, it's fine, run a global economy. And the brain's like, dude, man, I'm great at pattern recognition. Like
numbers have patterns.
I've only got a couple of yeah, I've only got a couple of things in this deck, so like I don't know what to tell you. So I think that it's very interesting to me that like in the same way that we can like struggle with finding the right pieces to match in the right areas with the right like all this sort of stuff, our brain can still pick up on like a 1/10 of a second difference in like the give of that mechanic. It's like, what exactly were you built for again, brain? Because this is a real like nuanced thing that you picked up on while I am flubbing this huge long-term goal.
I mean, we are way better at what is right in front of us than imagining the future, which, I mean, if you need proof that that's true, talk to anyone you've ever met and see how many of them have delivered on all of their long-term goals, or are even aware that they haven't delivered on some of their long-term goals. Like human beings are not awesome at that. But something like this, like twitch reflexes with a simple thing that's right in front of you where you get to generate like very, complete spaceless, blocks, patterns of blocks, that go in the whole column. Like that's the kind of thing that, that morphine, dopamine, cocaine, methamphetamines drip, like just right. Like we just, like I said, man, if Facebook had mastered Tetris before anyone else, that would have been the world ender.
Yes. And actually, this is super tangential, and not that we've been doing that much in this particular podcast.
Nope, go on.
But so actually, I read an article that was talking about a psychology study that was done that I thought was really fascinating, which is they basically took two groups of people who were like good at long-term planning and people who sucked at it, right? And they basically said like, and they put, whatever, all the brain monitoring stuff on their head. Don't at me on this. I don't care what it's actually called.
Brain monitoring stuff. You had it.
I mean, I'm not wrong. That's an accurate description, but I'm just sure there's a more elegant way to say it, Anyways, they put all that on their head. And so they monitored like what parts of their brain lit up. And so first they asked them, they said, I want you to imagine yourself, right? And then they said, I want you to imagine someone else. and they monitored the different areas of the brain that light up. And then they asked the people, both groups, they said, now imagine yourself in the future, and people who were good at planning, it lit up the similar parts of their brain when they said imagine yourself, and people who were bad at long-term planning, it lit up the parts of their brain that imagined somebody else. So literally, like, you know, a lot of times we're like, oh, well, you just need to plan better for the future. It's like there are people, and I'm sure there's all of the vast colors of gray in between this, but there are people like literally, you don't think of that as yourself. You think of it as somebody else. So why would you care about that person? Plan for yourself now, which I thought was kind of interesting.
So that actually lines up with something I've been kind of, because I'm going to go on this ride with you. That lines up with something I've been pretty fascinated by for a couple of years, like as I've kind of gone up in my career is, and I think you know the clever little Japanese name for this, but it's like I don't want to forget my keys, so I'm going to put my keys like. Go ahead.
Poke.
Yeah, that. It's such a cute name. How did I forget that? But the you know, soulless Western way to describe it is like systems over basically anything else. Like, how can I create a system whereby failure becomes either impossible or incredibly unlikely, right? So if I'm trying to remember my keys before I go out of the house, because I could just walk out the front door without even thinking about it, maybe I'll put my keys like right next to the front door, or maybe I'll put them on the inside part of the deadbolt. So like they're right in front of me before I leave, right? Like all these things that make it nearly impossible to screw up, or like put them in your pants pocket the night before, right? Like there are all sorts of ways you could address this problem that still make the system the solution, not the implementation details. And this feels like that is what's kind of at play is I can't, let's say I'm one of those people who can't imagine, you know, future David's life. So instead, present David, who knows logically that that is me, I'm going to create systems whereby that me will not hate this me, right? Because I'm instead of trying to empathize with what effectively feels like a stranger, I will make a system whereby I'm guaranteeing or tremendously increasing the likelihood of success. And I think I might be one of those people who thinks of future me as a different person and past me as a different person, because I have found way more success in my own life with like pokeyoking, right? Like, how do I design the world so that failure is harder and success is easier?
So actually, a counter argument would be that I would say that you do think of future you as yourself, because two things. One is that you think of future you as yourself because you know that future you will have to deal with this and that is you. And secondly is that there is a continuity of self in the sense that you know you, and you know that you will forget this in the future, you know? So like, there's not like, oh, don't worry, I'll remember it. And it's like, yeah, have you in the past? But speaking of making those types of long-term future plans in Tetris, when you,
I remember playing that game once. We should talk about it sometime.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. We should do a podcast on it. In Tetris, when you pause the game, it blanks out the screen, preventing that type of future planning that we were just talking about.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna do a little thing live on air here. That I'm so jealous that I did not come up with that on my own. And I am so proud of how you tied all that back together.
No, it's like literally looking at my notes. I was like, no, it can't be. That's impossible.
Because here's the thing. I remember because I was playing a little bit, not during work, because I don't play until after all my homework is done and I've done all my chores.
You're taking a shot of chocolate milk.
But I needed to pause the game, and it was one of those things where like I was already moving on to the thing that should have had my attention. So my face was turning away, and your periphery is lower detail, but it's way more sensitive to movement. And so when the screen flashed, and it just goes solid black except for the word pause, right? So when the screen flashed away or flashed off, I guess, and all the color went out of the world, like I kind of turned and looked back, and I was like, oh, huh. pause screen is so boring. And like, so I even had the moment where I noticed it, and I still did not tie those things together. But you are 100% correct. That is absolutely why the pause screen goes blank.
Yes. Yeah. Because I mean, like right when I paused, because I also just kind of paused it for kind of like a brief moment. I paused it and I looked at her and yeah, just kind of had this similar thing where I was like, black pause screen. Probably to stop you from just like pausing it. Because here's the thing is that, and this is true, is that players will maximize the fun out of a game almost every time, right? If there is an optimal way to play a game, players will play that way. And I think that that's kind of important in greater life and in project management. But like when you're thinking about like systems and mechanics that you're putting into place, you have to remember that it's like players will maximize for those mechanics, not for what you're trying to do. So if you're trying to make a game that's fun, you have to sometimes take things away from the player. And so literally what would happen if when you pause the screen, you can actually see it. You would pause after every brick.
Yeah.
Like you put a brick down, you pause it, and you would be like, okay, where's this next one? Okay. And then that would screw up the game difficulty horrendously, and it'd make it like horribly tedious. And it's like, no, none of that. Black pause screen. We're done.
And the slowest speed, like speed 0 where you start, is pretty freaking slow. So
it's pretty
right.
slow.
So I mean, the game affords you the speeds at which a person could reasonably be expected to learn the mechanics, and the controls are rotate, clockwise, rotate counterclockwise. Like they're not complicated. So there's twitch reflexes involved at higher speeds, but they're not complicated twitch reflexes. What's hard is making not just a choice, but the optimal choice. And because the game starts out really, really slow, you have a pretty good progress curve, right? And this is another one of those things. I don't think the original designer designed this brilliant progress curve or difficulty curve. I think he said every 10 lines, it's going to speed up a little bit. And it turned out that was really good. And how slow it started and how much it sped up each time was really effective. But I don't think he did thousands of hours of playtesting with people of all different skills and abilities. I think he was like, it seems like it's what works for me. And every other person on the planet was like, works for us too.
Yep. Let's do it. Yep. Well, because again, he spent aeon studying us.
So I do have one last thing that I need to talk to you about, because Tetris has endings with an S. Yes.
I don't appreciate your lies.
Yeah, no. So here's the thing. Now we're talking specifically about this Tetris, right? The Tetris, not all of the other Tetris, Tetropodes.
No, wait, real fast. Point of order. How do you know this? Did you beat it? Did you beat Tetris?
Well, okay. So
no, because I'm going to get really self-conscious here. Wait. It's like that BS that you threw for me. Oh, you're better at puzzle games. You like come at me like beating Tetris, like, oh no, you've got this, buddy. You're fine.
Mean you didn't get to the spot in Pac-Man where it glitches out because it can't count any higher?
In dings too. You're like, oh yeah, I beat it a couple of times, you troglodyte.
No, allow me to put some salve on that burn. Things are not as gloomy as you think. So
thank God.
There are, if you get above, I think 30,000 points, then you see, and when you die, you see the little animation of the rocket, right? There are gradations, right? So if you get over like X number of points, then you get like a different rocket. And if you get over Y number of points, you get different rocket. And if you get over Z number of points, you get different rocket. And so there's actually like 5 or 6 of these. And then if you do B-type game, the one no one should ever do because it's terrible, and you would only ever play that mode if you were like, I need to get better at Tetris as a skill that I have in my life. For anybody who doesn't know, the B-type mode is where you start with a bunch of screwed up crap already there, and you have to like you don't start from the bottom, right? So
so A-type mode is starting is performing a startup company, and B-type mode is taking over somebody else's job.
Taking over somebody else's job who's bad at their job.
Yeah, who was bad at their job.
Yeah, it's not like there's eight a column of 8 with 2 perfect things ready for line pieces, and they're like, oh, just go ahead and slot them in, and then take a victory lap.
Yeah.
So if you finish B-type mode, or you get into their finish screen criteria of scores, you see a little adorable animation of like a Nintendo character dancing. And then if you get a higher score, there's more Nintendo characters. And if you continue to get higher and higher scores, there's like 8 Nintendo characters. Samus is playing a cello, and they're like dancing, and they're the ones playing the music, and like a rocket ship goes off in the background. Like it's totally friggin' bananas. And I'm going to do something that we often joke about, but I am serious. This is a thing that actually exists in the world. And I think people played Tetris as a kid, or even now as an adult, and probably had no idea that this was in there. I am going to put a link for realsies in the show notes.
For realsies?
To the YouTube video of Samus playing the cello and characters dancing to the like when you beat Nintendo Tetris, because this is an actual thing that actually exists.
Okay, legit. But here's one thing that I would ask of our listeners before they click on that link, which is post a comment saying what characters you think they are and what instruments you think they should be playing, and then see if you're right.
I like that. Yeah. So if you're listening, most people in the podcast player, you can at me on Twitter, at Lions in Beta. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can actually leave a comment because it's YouTube. So go for it.
Sweet. So with all that being said, you ready to ask the final question?
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to be totally shocking to anybody who's been, unless they just jumped to this part of the episode.
Yeah, they just jumped into like, tell us what Nintendo characters you think they are and what instruments they play, and they're like, what the? And then they gotta like go back.
Wait, what is this, Tetris?
Yeah, I thought we were playing Tetris. Well, actually, to be fair, if they jumped into any random part of the episode, they would be very confused that this is the Tetris podcast, because we've been a little playing a little fast and loose with the title on this one. But
it's our thing.
So did it hold up? Yes. God, I mean, yeah. The fact that there's a bajillion T versions of this, and they're still making new versions of it, and like literally, I mean, this is a genre-defining game. Like literally, there are Tetris games. I mean, good God, when you move, you say that you are trying to Tetris like all of the stuff into your car.
Yes, Tetris became a made up word, or at least a word that didn't previously exist in the English language. I think it's a romanization of a Russian word. So a non-English word became a noun verb in English so that we could use it to describe activities that have nothing to do with playing the game Tetris.
Yes, no, it is literally, it is a verb. It is. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sorry, but I didn't mean to steal your thunder. What did you think? Did it hold up?
It did. And the one thing that I will counter you on, or not counter, I'm not going to disagree with you, but I think the fact that they're
redirect.
I'm gonna agree aggressively. The fact that there are more versions of Tetris are, I think, a testament to the fundamental concept that the game lays out. The fact that modern versions of Tetris are virtually indistinguishable in all of the ways that matter from this Tetris, that is what I think is the real deal sealer, right? Because there are versions of Tetris where you can play head to head and it's just who can last the longest. And there are versions of Tetris where when I get a line, it throws extra crap onto your side of the screen, like Dr. Mario and Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine style. And there's all kinds of little variations and graphical improvements and music enhancements and all sorts of other coats of paint. But the core, these are the, what is it, five blocks or whatever, 6 blocks. These are the core blocks. These are the size that they are. This is, roughly the ratio that they fall in. This is roughly the speed that they fall in. You have about this amount of time once it touches down to scoot it over at the last second. Those things have remained virtually unchanged. And the times that they did massively deviate from those, people were like, oh, okay. I mean, that's clever. I see what you did there. I'm just going to go play NES or Game Boy or TI-83 Tetris, right? Because those core things were done so right the first time that people have not really improved on them dramatically.
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, if somebody said like, oh, hey, like if I ran into a person who said that they had never played Tetris and were unfamiliar with it, if they're like, hey man, should I pick up Tetris? I'm like, yeah, man, just finish your homework, get a shot of milk out, and then play some Tetris.
The curtain falls, the music plays, the credits roll, then it all fades to black, and you're left by yourself. The fanfare is gone. There's no player two there by your side to share victories won. But as you slowly progress down the hall to your bed, a few great events leak back into your head from the time that you spent traversing the land, battling evil, fighting the darkness, just sword in hand. Your memories creeping with the edge of a smile. You realize again what you lost for a while. You're gonna think back much less on how you saved the day than on all the experience gained. At the end of it all, gamers play what we play. Not for game over, but rather for what we take away. The world is sad, but who cares? We all know that that's not what you came for. Your next adventure's already in sight. You're all set to go. You're excited to see what's all wrong till it's right, and the world is safe. So you're more along for the ride. You're more along for the ride. You're more along for the ride. You're more along for the
Right. You ready?
Yep.
Yeah. Hang on one quick second. Get the fuck out of here, you piece of shit cat. All right, ready?
That was funny.
I really hope you captured that on the recording.